Have you ever finished scrolling through hours of content, only to feel like you consumed everything and nothing at the same time? That strange, hollow sensation, like your brain is buzzing, but your heart is numb. Like you've just eaten an emotional buffet, but none of it actually nourished you. We all know that feeling. That weird mix of overstimulation and emptiness. And maybe we joke about it, call it brain rot, laugh about how we fried our dopamine receptors. But underneath the humor, there's a deeper kind of unease. It's not just distraction. It's a quiet kind of disconnection from ourselves, from each other, from anything that requires our full presence. And it's becoming the background noise of our entire generation. We don't just live online anymore. We feel online. We regulate ourselves with content. We soothe our boredom with reels, our loneliness with YouTube, our anxiety with endless scroll. And even when it doesn't work, we keep coming back. Not because it makes us feel better, but because we don't know what else to do. This isn't about demonizing screens, or blaming technology, or pretending we could all just walk away from it tomorrow. It's about something more fragile, more personal. It's about what happens to a human mind, to a human heart, when every emotional need is filtered through an algorithm. For a while, we were told the problem was attention, that we just had to learn to focus better, to beat the dopamine system, to have more willpower. But that's never quite explained it, has it? Because once in a while, we do pay attention, fully, to a song that brings us to tears, a video that makes us stop scrolling, a story that hits something deep and quiet inside us. Those moments still happen, which means our capacity for connection isn't broken. What's broken is the environment we're trying to connect in. We're not just distracted, we're saturated. Saturated with moments that mimic emotion without giving us space to actually feel. Saturated with intensity without integration. Saturated with experiences that demand our attention, but leave no trace. And when that becomes your baseline, when your nervous system is constantly reacting but never digesting, something starts to shift. You don't just lose focus, you lose meaning. There's a kind of emotional fatigue that doesn't look like burnout. It doesn't look like collapsing or crying or running away to a cabin in the woods. It looks like functioning. It looks like someone answering emails while switching between 5 apps. It looks like someone watching 3 different things at once. Not because they're fascinated, but because they're afraid of the silence that might follow. We don't often talk about how much effort it takes to keep feeling stimulated, to keep seeking that next thing that might finally break through the fog, but that's what so many of us are doing without realizing it. Not because we're addicted, not because we're weak, but because we're trying to stay emotionally alive in an environment that constantly overwhelms us, then leaves us empty. It's a strange paradox. We scroll because we feel disconnected, and we end up feeling even more disconnected. We reach for content to soothe our anxiety, but the way it's designed often intensifies it. And then we blame ourselves for not being able to stop. But what if the problem isn't our lack of control? What if the problem is that we've confused sensation with connection? That quick dopamine spike when a video surprises you, when a quote hits too close to home, when a comment thread makes you feel seen, it feels like something real. but it fades just as fast. It leaves no residue, no anchor, no real shift in our emotional landscape. And we call that normal now. We've learned to confuse emotional reactivity with depth. We've trained our nervous systems to chase intensity, not meaning. And so much of the content we consume is built exactly for that, for engagement, not for emotional truth. That's not our fault, but it has consequences. Because after a while, your system stops trusting what it feels. Your mind gets louder, but your inner sense of self goes quiet. You start to wonder if there's something wrong with you, for feeling tired all the time, for craving solitude, for being unable to enjoy the things that used to light you up. But what if that tiredness isn't something to fix? What if it's not a glitch, but a signal, a sign that your mind is trying to protect itself, that your nervous system is telling you it can't keep up with the speed and volume and emotional sharpness of the world you're swimming in? We're not emotionally broken. We're emotionally overstimulated. And there's a quiet difference between those two truths. But that difference changes everything. At some point, the system starts to break down. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, in the small moments where you find yourself opening the same apps over and over and wondering, why doesn't this feel good anymore? That's the beginning, not of collapse, but of clarity. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't just wear you down. It wakes you up. It makes you question the way you've been moving through the world, not with anger, not with shame, but with a deep, quiet honesty. We're seeing more and more of that now. People deleting apps, not because they read a productivity blog, but because they feel something melting inside their mind. Friends talking about how they just can't do TikTok anymore, not out of moral superiority, but because the cause has started to feel like poison. Creators burning out not from lack of success, but from the pressure to always be more intense, more emotional, more optimized for consumption. Even the word brain rot has become mainstream. We joke about it, yes, but jokes only go viral when they're hiding something we all secretly recognize. This exhaustion is not a failure. It's the beginning of a pivot. We're not just tired of content. We're tired of being emotionally managed by machines. Tired of our inner world being shaped by what gets the most engagement. Tired of feeling like our attention, our curiosity, our sadness, our longing has been turned into someone else's product. So what comes next? It's already happening, if you pay attention. Long-form podcasts where people speak slowly, without editing, without performance. YouTube essays that take 30 minutes to explore a single idea, instead of compressing everything into 90 seconds of emotional climax. Online communities forming around presence, not just virality. People who want to listen, not just scroll. We're not seeking perfection anymore. We're seeking coherence, something slower, something that doesn't feel like it's tearing us apart from the inside. And the most interesting part? This shift isn't being led by institutions. It's not being mandated from above. It's coming from within, from people like you. People who grew up in this digital landscape and are beginning to want something different, something that feels less like stimulation and more like being alive. This isn't about going backwards. We're not meant to return to some romanticized version of the past where no one had phones and everything was slow and pure. that world didn't exist. And even if it did, it wouldn't fit the complexity of who we are now. What we're craving isn't nostalgia, it's integration, a way of being that lets us stay connected, digitally, emotionally, socially, but without fragmenting ourselves in the process. A way of engaging with content that doesn't require us to shut off our inner world just to keep up. A digital life that's not a replacement for presence, but a companion to it. That won't happen all at once. The hooks of algorithmic content run deep. The patterns of distraction are wired into our days, our routines, even our nervous systems. For many people, this is normal because they've never known anything else. And that's okay. Change, when it comes, won't look like a revolution. It will look like small moments of remembering. Moments when you choose silence over noise. When you close the tab and go for a walk. When you sit with the discomfort instead of numbing it. When you reach for something slower, even when your brain begs for speed. These are not grand gestures, but they matter. Because every time you resist the pull of overstimulation, you create space. And in that space, something softer can emerge. Something that doesn't need to perform for attention. Something that doesn't disappear the moment it's consumed. Something that feels real. We're not entering a post-digital world, but we might be entering a post-brain rot world, a time where our digital lives begin to reflect our inner ones, not override them. Where depth becomes more valuable than reach. Where resonance means more than reaction. That future isn't guaranteed. It's a direction, not a destination. But we get to choose whether we move toward it. And maybe that's the most hopeful thing of all. Not that we can escape this world we've built, but that we're still allowed to shape it.